Have you ever felt trapped by what others think of you? Like you're constantly performing, hiding your true self, just to avoid judgment or rejection? Maybe you hold back your opinions, hide your dreams, or avoid taking risks because you fear being disliked. What if I told you that the very thing holding you back, the fear of being disliked, is actually the key to unlocking your deepest freedom and happiness? Sounds counterintuitive, right? But stay with me, because this idea is at the heart of The Courage to be Disliked, a life-changing book by Ichiro Kishimi and Fumite Koga. This book isn't just another self-help guide full of empty promises. It's a profound conversation, a dialogue between a wise philosopher and a young man searching for meaning, purpose, and a way to live freely. Through their candid and sometimes challenging discussions, you'll discover how to break free from the chains of your past, stop living to please others, and finally embrace who you truly are. Imagine what your life could look like if you stopped worrying about others' approval. Imagine waking up every day feeling confident, at peace, and connected to your own values and desires. That's the promise of this book, and by the end of this video you'll understand exactly how to start making that a reality. If you stop watching now, you'll miss the most powerful insight that could change everything you thought you knew about happiness and freedom. So grab a comfortable seat, open your mind, and let's explore The Courage to be Disliked together. Ready? Let's get started. One of the most revolutionary ideas in The Courage to be Disliked is this: your past does not determine your future. Think about how many times we hear people say things like, "I'm this way because of my childhood," or "that experience ruined me." It's common to believe that our past shapes who we are, limits our potential, and controls our destiny. But the philosopher in the book challenges this deeply held belief. He explains that the past is not a chain that binds us. Rather, it's just a story we tell ourselves. You have the power to choose how you interpret your past experiences and, more importantly, to decide who you want to be moving forward. This is a bold concept called teleology, the idea that our behavior is driven not by past causes but by future goals. In other words, you are not a product of your history. Instead, you are the author of your life, constantly creating your own purpose and meaning based on what you want to achieve. For example, if you made mistakes in the past, it doesn't mean you're doomed to repeat them or that you must live with guilt forever. You can decide to learn from those mistakes and change course right now. This freedom to choose your future is incredibly empowering. Ask yourself, what story about your past might be holding you back? What new story could you start telling yourself today? If you've ever felt trapped by your history, this is your moment to break free. Remember, your past is not your destiny. Stay with me, because the next part will show you how your relationships shape your world and how understanding them can free you even more. Now that we've touched on the freedom to choose your own path regardless of your past, let's explore something equally powerful, the idea that all problems are interpersonal relationship problems. At first, this might sound surprising or even overwhelming, but think about it. How many times have you felt anxious, frustrated, or unhappy because of your relationships? Maybe it was a disagreement with a close friend, tension with a family member, conflict at work, or even feeling ignored or misunderstood by someone you care about. The philosopher in The Courage to be Disliked explains that the root of most of our unhappiness isn't external circumstances, it's how we relate to others. Our sense of self-worth, peace, and happiness is tightly linked to the quality of our relationships. When relationships are good, life feels easier and more joyful. When relationships are strained, life can feel heavy and difficult. But here's where the book offers a fresh perspective. The problem isn't other people, it's the way we choose to engage with them. The philosopher introduces the concept of separation of tasks. This means learning to clearly distinguish between what tasks belong to you and what tasks belong to others. For example, whether someone likes you or not is their task, not yours. Your job is to live authentically and sincerely, not to manipulate or control others' feelings or opinions. This idea is liberating because it removes the impossible burden of trying to please everyone. When you understand that you can only control your own actions and attitudes, and that others are responsible for their own reactions, you gain a huge sense of freedom. It's like stepping off a treadmill where you're constantly chasing approval, validation, or acceptance that may never come. The philosopher also talks about horizontal relationships, relationships based on equality and mutual respect rather than competition or hierarchy. Imagine how different your life would feel if you approached your interactions not as battles to be won or roles to be played, but as connections between equals. By adopting this mindset, you begin to see others not as obstacles or judges, but as fellow human beings with their own tasks, challenges, and choices. Here's a question for you to reflect on. Are you carrying the weight of others' expectations or opinions? How might your life change if you stopped trying to control what others think of you? The philosopher's teaching here is simple but profound. To live freely and happily, you must focus on what's within your control, your own thoughts, feelings, and actions, and let go of what belongs to others. If you're still watching, you've already taken a huge step towards emotional freedom. Because this understanding of relationships isn't just theory, it's a practical tool for building better connections and a happier life. Coming up next, we'll explore how accepting yourself as you are can be the foundation for that happiness. So don't go anywhere. If you've made it this far, you're already on a transformative path. Now let's dive deeper into one of the most powerful lessons from the courage to be disliked, the importance of truly accepting yourself and releasing the constant need for approval from others. Have you ever stopped to notice how much time and energy you spend worrying about what others think? Maybe you hold back your opinions, avoid doing what you really want, or even change who you are just to fit in or be liked. It's exhausting, isn't it? The philosopher in the book teaches us that this desire for recognition, this craving to be seen, validated and accepted by others, is one of the biggest obstacles to genuine freedom and happiness. Why? Because when your sense of worth depends on others' approval, you give away your power. You become a prisoner of their opinions, their moods, and their judgments. You live a life that isn't truly yours. But here's the truth that might surprise you. You don't need to be liked by everyone. You don't need constant praise or validation to be valuable. What truly matters is learning to accept yourself as you are, flaws, mistakes, quirks, and all. Self-acceptance is not about arrogance or complacency. It's about acknowledging your humanity and embracing your imperfections without harsh judgment. It's saying to yourself, I am enough, just as I am. Imagine the relief of no longer carrying the heavy burden of seeking approval. Imagine the peace that comes from living authentically, without masks or pretenses. This shift requires courage, the very courage the book's title talks about. The courage to be disliked. It means understanding that when you live your truth, some people will accept you, and others won't. And that's okay, because the alternative, living a life based on pleasing others, is a slow death of the soul. Ask yourself right now, what parts of yourself have you been hiding or denying because of fear of rejection? What would it feel like to let go of that fear and show up fully as yourself? The philosopher also reminds us that our goal is not to be superior to others, but to find peace within ourselves. When you accept yourself, you're no longer in competition with anyone. You stop comparing and start connecting with yourself and with others on a deeper, more authentic level. This acceptance lays the groundwork for real freedom, happiness, and meaningful relationships. So if you've ever felt like you're living in a shadow, worried about being judged or disliked, this is your invitation to step into the light and embrace your true self. Don't skip the next part, because coming up, we'll uncover the final piece of this puzzle: how to live a life of true freedom through community, contribution, and courage. If you've made it this far, you're already doing something incredible. You're choosing courage. If you've followed along until now, congratulations. You're deep into a journey that many never dare to begin. We've explored how your past doesn't define you, how relationships shape your happiness, and how embracing yourself fully is the foundation of true freedom. Now let's dive into the final, and perhaps most inspiring, lesson of the courage to be disliked. Living in the present moment with courage, especially the courage to contribute to the world around you. You might wonder, how does contribution relate to courage? And why is living in the now so important? Here's the insight. When you stop worrying about being liked or judged, you free yourself to focus on something bigger than your own fears, contributing to others and to the community. The philosopher in the book explains that true freedom isn't about selfish independence or isolation. It's about interdependence, recognizing that we're all connected, and that living meaningfully involves playing a role in the lives of others. This means you have the courage to show up and contribute, not because you expect praise or reward, but because you want to add value simply because it's right and fulfilling. Think about that for a moment. When you live with the intention of contributing, your life gains purpose beyond your personal struggles or insecurities. And here's a powerful twist. Contribution doesn't mean you have to make grand gestures or change the world overnight. It could be as simple as a kind word, a listening ear, or helping someone in a small way. By focusing on contribution, you redirect your energy away from the endless loop of seeking validation and towards meaningful action. Reflect on this. What small action can you take today that would make a positive difference in someone's life without expecting anything in return? This shift requires courage, the courage to be vulnerable, to face uncertainty, and to live authentically even when it means risking rejection. Living in the now also means releasing the weight of past regrets and future anxieties. The philosopher encourages us to live with the goal of happiness by embracing the present moment, fully aware and engaged. This practice of presence, combined with contribution, creates a powerful cycle. When you act courageously in the present for the benefit of others, you build confidence, deepen relationships, and cultivate genuine happiness. And here's where the magic happens. The more you contribute, the less you fear being disliked, because your value comes from who you are and what you give, not from others' approval. So, if you've been holding back because of fear or doubt, this is your moment to step forward. Don't skip this part. This is where your real transformation begins. If you've made it this far, you're already embracing the courage to be disliked. And that's something extraordinary. Before we wrap up, here's one last question to ponder. What does true freedom mean to you? And what's one courageous step you can take today to live it fully? One of the most eye-opening ideas in The Courage to be Disliked is about inferiority feelings. Those moments when you feel less than, not good enough, or stuck behind others. The philosopher explains that everyone experiences these feelings at some point. They're part of being human. But what truly matters is how you respond to them. Are you letting inferiority feelings paralyze you? Or are you using them as motivation to grow and change? Here's the catch. Inferiority feelings aren't inherently negative. They become a problem only when they lead to compensation, when you try to cover up your perceived weaknesses by seeking power, status, or approval. Imagine a co-worker who constantly boasts about their achievements, always trying to be the best. Or someone who refuses to admit mistakes because they feel vulnerable or less than. These are forms of compensation driven by inferiority feelings. The philosopher invites us to rethink this dynamic. Instead of trying to fix our inferiority by comparison or competition, we can use it as a signal, a sign pointing us towards self-improvement that's rooted in our own goals, not others' expectations. Reflect for a moment. What feelings of inferiority have you experienced lately? How might those feelings be guiding you toward a deeper understanding of yourself? This perspective is liberating because it shifts the focus inward. It reminds us that our growth and happiness don't depend on surpassing others, but on becoming the person we want to be. And here's a practical tip from the book. When you catch yourself comparing or trying to compete, pause and ask, is this my task or someone else's? This simple question helps you separate your goals from others' judgments. If you keep watching, you're about to discover how breaking free from competition can open the door to true cooperation and peace. Have you ever felt overwhelmed by trying to control everything or fix every problem around you? Maybe you've been caught in the exhausting trap of worrying about how others feel or what they think, carrying the burden of other people's reactions on your shoulders. It's draining, isn't it? One of the most practical and powerful ideas in The Courage to be Disliked is the concept of separation of tasks. This principle teaches you to clearly distinguish what your responsibility is, your tasks, and what belongs to others. It's about setting healthy emotional and psychological boundaries. Why does this matter so much? Because a huge amount of human suffering comes from mixing these tasks up, trying to control others' feelings, opinions, or actions, or worrying excessively about what's not ours to manage. The philosopher explains that your task ends where another person's task begins. For example, if you invite a friend to dinner, your task is to extend the invitation clearly and kindly. Whether they accept or decline is entirely their task, their choice, their responsibility. It's tempting to feel hurt or rejected when someone doesn't respond the way you want. But realizing that their reaction is not your task frees you from that emotional weight. Imagine the relief of no longer carrying the burden of other people's judgments or happiness. You learn to focus on your own actions, intentions, and feelings, and let others handle theirs. This concept isn't about ignoring or being indifferent to others, but about respecting autonomy, yours and theirs. Pause for a moment and ask yourself, are you carrying any tasks that don't belong to you? Where might you be overstepping or taking on unnecessary responsibility? This is a revolutionary way to reduce anxiety, resentment, and burnouts. It allows you to live more peacefully with others, because you're no longer entangled in trying to control outcomes outside your power. Let me share a simple real-life example. Imagine you're a parent worried about how your teenager behaves at school. Your task is to guide, support, and communicate your values clearly. But whether your teenager chooses to follow those values or rebel is their task. When parents accept this separation, they find they can love and support without becoming frustrated or controlling. It's a healthier relationship for everyone. Another example is in the workplace. You can do your job with excellence. That's your task. How your boss or colleagues respond, praise or criticize is theirs to handle. The courage to apply this separation often means resisting the urge to control or manipulate. It means trusting that people will take responsibility for their own tasks. But here's the catch. It takes courage because letting go can feel like losing control. What if others fail or reject you? The book encourages us to embrace this uncertainty as part of freedom. When you stop trying to micromanage life, you open space for genuine connections and growth. And guess what? This concept also applies to your own self-talk. Sometimes you might take on tasks like, I must be perfect, or I have to make everyone happy. Those are expectations you impose on yourself, tasks that aren't necessarily yours to carry. Learning to separate these internal tasks can be just as freeing as separating tasks with others. Don't skip this part. Understanding and applying separation of tasks can be the real game changer in your relationships and your peace of mind. So here's a question for you. What tasks have you been trying to control that you can let go of today to lighten your load and reclaim your peace? If you're ready, the next section will explore how embracing this principle can help you build authentic relationships free from dependency and fear. Now that we've uncovered the power of separating tasks, it's time to explore how this principle helps us create authentic, healthy relationships. Because, at the heart of the courage to be disliked, lies a radical message. True connection comes not from dependence, but from freedom, both yours and theirs. Think about your closest relationships for a moment. How often do you find yourself worrying about being liked, feared of rejection, or walking on eggshells just to avoid conflict? Maybe you hold back your true feelings or opinions because you're scared of how the other person might react. This is what Adlerian psychology calls relationship dependency, when your happiness and self-worth hinge on how others see you or treat you. It's a common trap, but a painful one. The philosopher in the book tells us that this kind of dependency is limiting. It traps you in a cycle of anxiety and self-denial because you're constantly trying to meet others' expectations. But here's the breakthrough. When you accept the separation of tasks, you stop taking responsibility for others' feelings and reactions. You stop trying to control or manipulate how they see you. This means you can be your authentic self without fear. You don't need to mold your personality or actions to fit someone else's approval. You can speak your truth, express your needs, and set boundaries, all with respect and kindness. And here's the beautiful part. When both people in a relationship embrace this freedom, the connection deepens and becomes more genuine. Imagine a friendship or partnership where you both trust each other's autonomy. You support each other's growth without trying to change or control. You enjoy each other's company without needing constant reassurance or approval. Think about this. Are your current relationships built on mutual freedom or on unspoken dependencies? What would change if you embraced freedom instead of control? The philosopher also challenges us to let go of the idea that conflict is always bad. In fact, healthy conflict can be a sign of respect. It means both people feel safe enough to disagree and be themselves. This shift requires courage, the courage to risk being disliked, to face disagreement without fear, and to accept that not everyone will always agree with you. But this courage leads to a more peaceful mind and deeper bonds. Because when you're not walking on eggshells, you're free to be fully present, fully human. Here's a simple practical exercise from the book. Next time you feel the urge to seek approval or avoid conflict, pause and ask yourself, is this my task or theirs? Remind yourself that it's okay to disagree or be disliked sometimes. Remember, real love and respect don't mean constant agreement. They mean accepting and valuing each other's individuality. So if you've ever felt trapped in a relationship by fear or neediness, know that freedom is possible. It begins with the courage to be disliked. Before we move on, here's a question to reflect on. What's one small way you can practice authentic freedom in your relationships this week? If you're still with me, the next section will guide you through transforming your life purpose and choosing happiness, a vital step to living fully free. By now you've learned about the courage it takes to be disliked, the power of separating tasks, and building authentic relationships rooted in freedom. But what does this all lead to? What's the bigger picture? The answer lies in transforming your life purpose. The book emphasizes a simple yet profound truth. Happiness is a choice, and it comes from contributing to others. At first, that might sound surprising. We often think happiness comes from success, possessions, or approval. But the courage to be disliked teaches that genuine happiness is found in what Adler called community feeling. The sense that you belong, and that your life has meaning, through helping others. You might wonder, how can focusing on others bring happiness to me? The answer is rooted in connection. When you contribute to your community, family, or workplace, you shift your focus away from worries about yourself, your fears, doubts, and insecurities, and towards something bigger. This outward focus creates purpose and satisfaction. It's not about grand gestures, but small acts. Listening with attention, sharing your skills, offering kindness without expecting anything back. The philosopher challenges the idea that your past or your limitations define your life purpose. Instead, your purpose is something you choose in the here and now. Pause for a moment. What does purpose mean to you? Is it something fixed, or can it evolve as you grow? This is a liberating way to live, because it means you're not trapped by your history, your mistakes, or what others expect from you. You're free to create your own meaning through the choices you make today. And here's a key insight. True contribution doesn't come from obligation or guilt. It comes from a place of freedom and joy, because you recognize your interconnectedness with others. When you live with this mindset, you begin to see life's challenges differently. Struggles become opportunities to grow and to serve. Failures become lessons that deepen your compassion and resilience. Imagine waking up each day feeling energized by the impact you can have on others, no matter how small. That's the power of choosing a life of contribution. But the book also warns against confusing contribution with trying to control outcomes or others. True contribution respects others' freedom and does not expect rewards or recognition. It's about doing what you can, where you are, with what you have, and accepting that's enough. Here's something to think about. What small step can you take today to contribute more freely to your community or loved ones? If you keep watching, next we'll explore how to overcome the fear of being disliked, the very fear that holds so many people back from living authentically. If you've made it this far, you're ready for one of the most powerful parts of the courage to be disliked. Confronting and overcoming the fear of being disliked. This fear, so common yet so quietly destructive, holds many of us back from living fully authentic and joyful lives. Let me ask you, how often have you stayed silent or changed yourself just to avoid someone's disapproval? How many times have you hidden your true opinions or feelings because you feared rejection? If you've experienced this, you're not alone. The book boldly tells us that the fear of being disliked is a choice, hobo, not an unavoidable fact. It's something we can challenge and change. Why? Because this fear is based on a misunderstanding of what it means to be connected to others. We often think that to be loved or accepted, we must please everyone or avoid conflict. But this is an impossible task. It traps us in a cycle of people-pleasing that drains our energy and erodes our self-worth. Instead, the philosopher invites us to see that being disliked by some people is not only inevitable, but also necessary for true freedom. Here's the key insight. If you live trying to please everyone, you end up pleasing no one, especially not yourself. This might feel uncomfortable or even scary to hear, but think about it. When you say yes to others out of fear, what are you saying no to inside yourself? Your dreams, your values, your happiness? Imagine the relief of finally accepting that it's okay not to be liked by everyone. It's not rejection, it's freedom. Ask yourself, what parts of yourself have you hidden or compromised to avoid being disliked? What might happen if you brought those parts fully into the light? The courage to be disliked means choosing authenticity over approval. It means embracing your unique self, flaws and all, and trusting that the right people will accept and love you for who you are. This doesn't mean you become unkind or dismissive of others. Rather, it means you stop living for others' judgments and start living for your own values. Here's a practical way to start. Next time you feel the urge to seek approval or avoid conflict, pause and remind yourself, it's okay if they dislike me. I am responsible for my own life. That simple shift can change how you interact with the world. You might find that some relationships fall away, but others deepen. You'll attract people who appreciate the real you. And here's a final thought from the book. Living without the fear of being disliked is living without the chains of past trauma and social pressure. It's true freedom. So before we move on, reflect on this. What fear can you release today that's been holding you back from your most authentic self? If you're still with me, the next section will wrap up everything with a powerful summary and some final motivation to apply these lessons in your life. Congratulations! If you've made it this far, you've already taken an important step toward transforming your life. You've explored deep, sometimes challenging ideas about courage, freedom, relationships and happiness, all through the lens of the courage to be disliked. So now, what does it really mean to live courageously? It means choosing yourself every day, even when it's uncomfortable or when others don't understand. It means accepting that not everyone will like you, and that's perfectly okay. It means setting boundaries, speaking your truth, and embracing your unique path. Remember how we talked about the separation of tasks? This is where it all ties together. You take responsibility for your life, your happiness, and your choices, and let others take responsibility for theirs. This frees you from unnecessary burdens and opens space for genuine connection. Living courageously is also about embracing imperfection. It's about loving yourself, even with flaws, mistakes, and doubts. The philosopher reminds us that life is not a competition. It's a journey of growth and contribution. Here's a simple but powerful question to keep with you. Are you living your life for yourself, or are you still living for others' approval? The courage to be disliked is an ongoing practice, not a one-time event. It's like a muscle you strengthen with every choice to be authentic, with every no to fear, and every yes to freedom. If you stop now, you'll miss the most powerful insight of the entire book. True happiness comes not from external validation, but from within, from the courage to accept yourself and live according to your own values. So what's the next step? How do you start applying these lessons right now? Start small. Notice when you're trying to please others or avoid conflict. Remind yourself that it's okay to be disliked sometimes. Practice separating your tasks from others. Choose one authentic action, whether it's setting a boundary, speaking your truth, or simply being kinder to yourself. If you keep practicing, you'll find a deep sense of peace and confidence emerging. You'll build stronger, more genuine relationships. You'll discover joy in contributing without expectation. And remember, you are not alone on this journey. If you found this summary inspiring, please give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel for more book summaries that change lives, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an upload. Also, if you want to dive deeper into The Courage to be Disliked, check out the link in the description to grab your copy of the book. Here's one final question to leave you with. What courageous step will you take today to live your life more authentically and freely? Thank you so much for watching. Remember, the mountain you face is often just a reflection of your own courage waiting to be unleashed. Stay brave, stay true, and see you in the next video.